Hi, I'm Christian Sachs from Cactus Competence, and today I have a very special guest for you. He is not only a very good friend of mine, and we know each other for decades, he's also an expert project manager, trainer, coach, and a pilot. So here's my friend Peter Chadwick and his take on how to make the COVID-19 confinement productive and reduce stress and worry thanks to three key agile concepts. He'll give you a concrete example, plus, at the end of the video, the bonus that Agile can bring to our well-being whilst in confinement. So I no longer put you on the rack and open the mic for Peter. Here he is.
Hi, I'm Peter Chadwick, and it's a great pleasure to be with you today as doing a short guest video for Cactus Competence. We're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. I'm based here in France, so this is, I think, the third or fourth week of confinement. Current situation is China's coming out of it, Europe is still in the middle of it, and unfortunately the US is really progressing in terms of number of cases quite a lot at the moment. Seeing as Cactus Competence, it's all about project management, and maybe some of us, if we're in confinement, we might be starting to get some cases of cabin fever, to make reference to the film The Shining. It came out a few years ago. We're confined in sometimes small spaces, sometimes alone, sometimes with our family. It's a very binary situation as well. There's a lot of people who are actually in the front line, in the medical services or other essential services. But for other people, we're just being asked to stay at home because it's the way to keep the virus from spreading. So for those who are confined, it can be difficult to find things to do, and after a while we can start to feel some feelings maybe of uselessness and despair. And that's where projects come in, because we're going to be in this confinement now in Europe for probably another few weeks, and globally that's probably going to be the situation as well. So one good thing to do can be to find projects for yourself, things that maybe you've never taken the time to do before because life is so busy in general. And if we're going to look at projects, if we're going to decide to do things, the Agile method is very pertinent and useful to us in this current situation. So what I'll do is I'll share some key concepts of Agile with you, then we can go through an example, and finally some bonus material. So the first key thing about Agile, obviously, is that it's designed to fit to a changing world, to changing situations. Traditional project management, let's say, took a project to spread over 3 years. We tried to plan everything to a great detail, and then we tried to keep that plan on track. And very often the world changes so fast that by the time we got to the end of that project, the initial product was actually not what was needed anymore. Agile has a lot shorter time spans. We deliver things progressively in iterations, and the idea is that by the time we get to the end of the same 3-year time span, we will have a product, maybe not the initial product which was imagined, but something which is a lot more use in that new situation. And in terms of change, I can't really think of any time in my lifetime that things have been changing as fast. I'm sure a lot of you are in the same situation where we have a visibility of about a week or two. We don't know what the situation is going to be beyond that. And so if we're trying to do projects to keep ourselves busy and to keep ourselves occupied and make sure that the time that we're spending inside is actually useful at the end, we have this very similar time frame or time box to Agile, maybe 1, 2, maybe up to 3 or 4 weeks, but probably around 2 weeks. So that's the first key thing. The second thing about Agile is the MVP, or minimum viable product concept. And this is, if we take the example of Scrum, the idea is that we have a team effort over a given period of time, maybe 2 weeks, and at the end of that period, the team should deliver something which is not necessarily the end product, but it is a product which is functional and useful and can be given to the client, and then we can get feedback on that and take that into account for the next loop. So whilst we're in confinement, we may not be able to do things perfectly as we would like to have the end situation. For example, here in France, we can buy essential items like food and medical supplies, but pretty much everything else is shut. So we can't necessarily, if we have a building project, we can't necessarily buy equipment and timber for that. But we can look at the short term and say, okay, what can I usefully do in 2 weeks? And it may not be the final item, but it will be something which is good and useful. The final thing for today about Agile is the way that we use Agile to unify people and to try to simplify things, use visual management, and to get the team actually to be empowered rather than having an all-knowing, all-powerful leader. The aim of the leader is to put the team into the position of figuring out what to do and act as a servant leader. So if we're living in a family situation, that means that everybody can contribute to deciding what projects should be done. And it can be a nice fun thing to do, to pick a family project and to go ahead and distribute roles, and each one decides based on their skills, based on their the things they like to do a little part and contribute to that end project. So having gone through these three fundamentals, the agility, which fixes to a volatile world, the minimum viable product concept, and also the unifying and empowering aspects of Agile, let's take a look at a concrete example that we've been doing over here in France during confinement. So first of all, if you can see behind me, I'll crouch down a little bit. This is our very simple and not necessarily very scientific Agile board, and I live next to a church which now is going to chime at 2:30. So if you just wait a second for that. Okay, so there we go. You can see in the background, I mean, I don't want to go into any detail on that, but we have a column of things to do. So this is like the backlog. Then we have work in progress in the middle, and then we have things which are finished on the right. And we don't necessarily observe quite so much rigor as we would do in the workplace, but it's great to get to the end of a week, and we move our post-its slowly towards the right, and we can have a celebration of the things that we've accomplished together. So I'll take you over now to the garage, which is the example I wanted to show you, and we'll take a look into how we've applied the Agile concepts to that. So see you in a minute. Okay, so here's the example of the garage. We moved into our apartment last year, and really at the end it was a bit of a hectic thing, so the removal team just threw everything into the garage. It was just a big wall of stuff, and really when you open the door, the thing that you wanted to do was to close the door again and run away. And the biggest problem was everything was mixed up, so there was stuff from the apartment, stuff from the garage, the tools, the things for organising things was mixed with the stuff that needed to be organised. And the biggest problem was that I couldn't even access my tools, so I couldn't really progress anything. So here we are now at the end of the first Agile loop and the minimum viable product. So the user story could have been to be able to access the garage in order to be able to get at the tools and carry on with organising the rest of the apartment. So don't get your hopes up, it's only the first stage, but let's take a look at what it's like. So I also lubed the door, so that works pretty well. Okay, so as you can see, the garage is still quite full. No way I can get a car in here or even a motorbike. But as you can see from behind me, I managed to make access into the garage and organise all the tools on the pin board here. and on the other side I managed to access the shelves that I already had and construct them and put everything on. So that's the definition of done is mission accomplished. And I can get at my tools and I can do all the other work in the house along with the rest of my family to organise our living space. So a future loop would be to have a user story, which would be to be able to put a vehicle in here, a motorbike or a car. And to do that, obviously I need to get a lot of this stuff out. Some has to go into the apartment, and the rest I have to build a second floor over there, some shelving fixed to the walls, and make like an actual mezzanine type of thing. And can't do that at the moment because we can't buy timber. So that will be a future loop, a future minimal viable product, and a future user story. So bonus material or bonuses of Agile. Obviously, above and beyond making great products and services which are adapted to the needs of a changing world, particularly in this Covid-19 confinement period, we can see three advantages on a human side. The first, from an individual point of view, when we're confined and we could be victim to a feeling of uselessness, the fact to decide on small productive projects, to make the projects and to realize the results can be a great boost to morale. And in the same way, the second point, collectively, if we're confined with our family or other people, the act of getting together and deciding on small, useful projects, working together to achieve them, and then celebrating the success, this can be a great help as well. And finally, there is this maybe a vague feeling of worry about what's going to happen after the end of the confinement period. We all realise that there's going to be a lot of work to do to reconstruct and maybe change things, make things better than they were before. This is going to mean we're going to have to be available and ready and to have lots of energy to put into that. So the fact of realising these seemingly simple and yet concrete steps in our own projects, in our own daily life, will mean that we'll have more time and more mental availability to get on and really contribute when things start to get back on track. So there you go, just a few short ideas about Agile, confinement, COVID-19. I hope you've enjoyed it. Keep safe, take care, and hope to see you on the far side. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for watching. To learn more about my today's special guest, please go to the description below where you will find a link to the author page. If you have any question, don't hesitate to contact him directly. If you liked it, please share it on the social media or give us a great comment below. And don't forget, you can also send us chocolate. Now go below to the comments, ask your questions, or let's start a discussion. We will be glad to help and answer all the questions.